Hello friends, welcome back to the garden. It's Tuesday the 17th of May 2022 and let me take you around. I've been slow to get things started. It's just how things are. My experiment here with the lavender to see if it would come back didn't. The herbs are taken well again. The catnip overwintered and I started the cilantro and basil and parsley inside. Doing great. I've yet to plant this bed. These are the onions that came up again, and these are going to be the Jerusalem artichokes. And here I'm going to put a whole bunch of potatoes later today. The theme this year is more of less. Every bed is effectively dedicated to one thing. This is all going to be carrots. Doing things a little differently this year. So I covered all the beds at the end of last year with a wonderful grass and leaf mulch. And now for my rows, I just moved that mulch aside. I put a little bit of potting soil in this case because I had it extra. Just gently in between here for the carrots, wet it, put the carrot seed down, put another layer on top, and wet it down. In a couple weeks, as the carrots come up, I'll thin them out, and I will add this back in between to help with the weed control, which we'll talk about a sec when we get up to the beans. Here the asparagus and strawberry bed is looking nice. This is, of course, very well established, and I've just been going up and snapping them off as I want to eat. No. Next up this year, tomatoes are here. We had some super hot weather earlier this month and I planted them. They'll be just fine. The nights are not going to get down any more than like mid 40s. 50s are the worst. It's a whole bed of tomatoes, guys, except for those random onions coming up. And here's a whole bed of peppers. So the peppers I all started myself, different varieties. I started tomatoes too, and they all failed. So I had to buy all of my tomatoes this year. What a fluke. Last year it was the opposite. I couldn't get any peppers to grow in my greenhouse, but the tomatoes all took. So this is that technique again that I talked about with the carrots, where I had the mulch on top, I moved it to the side, and I planted in between. Let's get in so you can see what I mean. Right? And I'm experimenting with spacing of the beans, so just one in the center here and two over here. Now that these are a solid 4 inches off the ground and they've got their actual leaves, I will be doing this off camera today. I'll be putting the mulch back in between the rows and around the plant. That helps with moisture control and weed reduction. And actually, I'm very impressed. I haven't done any weeding in this bed. And if you can see, I've got a dandelion growing there and a thistle growing there and a couple thistles over here. And that's it. So that's a big win in my book. I'm not going to be planting anything along the fence here this year. These are blackberries. They've been kind of growing over the years. They'll come back. One of my projects this year, let's see. Last year, I built the play set in the back. The year before that, the shed and the fire shed. So this year's project is the fence. And I'll be taking it off and redoing it. But the fence bows in here, so I'm going to have it go straight, which will cut out some of the garden. But that's okay, because on this end, it'll make the entryway a lot nicer. And once again, my blueberries got eaten. Wouldn't you know? We're doing all split peas here this year. And as you can see with the shadows, they've germinated beautifully. We're late because it was freezing cold until it was burning hot. So on Wisconsin. You may have seen my extreme measures pruning video on the raspberries. That worked very nicely. These are all new growth coming up. So this week, I'm going to take the ones that are outside of the trellised area, like these ones that are started well outside of it. And I need to put them over here because the creeping grapevine that I come across effectively squashed out, 70% of what's underneath. There's some new growth, but it's pretty pathetic. So I'll fill that in. Won't be the best fall harvest right here, but over here it'll be great. The rhubarb is, of course, massive. For perspective, here I am squatting down next to it. Look at that. Looks good. And let's see. Here's the gooseberry. Again, pretty massive. And I even trimmed it down. We're going to have a great big harvest. And hold on, guys. Check this out. Got a 3.5-year-old. She'll be 4 in August. So we do walkie-talkies now. Hi, Charlotte. I'm filming a YouTube video. Over.
Okay, didn't know who it was. Over.
Thanks for checking in. Love you. Over and out.
Okay. Over and out.
She's got the lingo. So check out the currants. Last year I got a little bit of actual produce on them. This year, boom, they'll be gangbusters. Just check it out. Look at all the flowers. They are loaded everywhere. Black currant and red currant. So we'll be making currant buns and currant jam and all sorts of tasty, tasty currant things. I'm very excited. This will be our first proper year of currants. So right now, this is the first year where these are the size that I had expected them in the end. And honestly, these two will continue to grow as big as the gooseberry. It's hard to give you a good perspective. I guess I got to go through here. But you see how the gooseberry touches that currant? These two will be that big. And so they'll all kind of touch together. So I'll cut just a little bit of a walkway between them. And that's great. You know, perennial gardening is where it's at, especially when you've got kids and you have less and less time. So I'll talk about that again in a second. This is a tree that I use to hold up the trellis. And so I'll be cutting off the leaves. I already gave it a big trimming, but you know, it's rooted. So this is just there to help stabilize this. I am going to be cutting that all off. Let's talk about that comment real quick of there's not enough time, so perennial gardening's where it's at. Young kids, they're awesome and they take up your time as they should. You know, we wanted them and so we give them our attention. We love kids. That's why the theme here is more of less. Instead of like 3 things in each raised bed, just 1, right? So I only have to think about beans, peppers, tomatoes, carrots, really. Because the asparagus and strawberries are on autopilot. Onions, same thing. Rhubarb, raspberries, currants, gooseberries, same thing. And the peas, those are the annuals too. So, I didn't even talk about these, just FYI. We got spinach and lettuce in here and kale and spinach over there. These two, I think I'm going to empty out and fill in the potato space this year. There'll be fewer garden tours, 1 a month maybe, 3 or 4 weeks. Hope your gardening is going well. Just wanted to check in. It's the nature of this channel, you know. This is the 7th year. Started in 2015, so kids are taking up the time. I don't have the same gusto to go online and film things for you as I did when I was 25 or whatever. Let me know how your garden is this year. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you around. Happy growing. Bye, guys.